hold in my hands the new a7R Mark IV. Okay, it's actually the a7 III, but it should be the a7R Mark IV, and it was all set up to be the a7R Mark IV until I got this text message saying all units must be retrieved post-haste. I was hoping to spend the weekend with it, but I was fortunate enough to spend the evening with it overnight in New York City in the rain, night out on the town. I tell you what, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's rewind and go back to the beginning. Sony was kind enough to invite Amber and myself to their Sony a7R Mark IV launch. Of course, we didn't know that it was going to be the a7R Mark IV. We had other hopes and aspirations for that announcement. A lot of my video colleagues, you know what we wanted. And we're gonna get it someday, but alas, it was not this day. However, Sony did announce a 61 megapixel full frame sensor on the new a7R Mark IV. And if you've been living under a rock and you're not familiar with the a7R Mark IV and the features, here's a quick rundown.
It's the evolution of R with an all-new image sensor. 61 effective megapixels. Reaches 15 stops of dynamic range. Our pixel shift multi-shooting mode to create images of up to 240 million pixels. Highest resolution APS-C sized capture today. a7R Mark IV has 567 phase AF points covering 74% in full frame mode, but in this image we're showing you what it can do in APS-C, essentially providing coverage across the entire frame. a7R Mark IV has the power to capture 61 megapixel images at 10 frames per second continuously. And it can do that with continuous autofocus and continuous auto exposure tracking, up to 68 images. So this is the same type of real-time tracking and real-time IAF that is in the Alpha 9, but now in an R series camera for the first time. We have touch tracking for video, so we have real-time tracking AF for video with touch tracking on the LCD. a7R Mark IV includes a revolution in video autofocus. Real-time IAF for movies. Dual UHS-2 card slots. This will be our first camera with 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi for wireless tethering. 5.76 million dot OLED eye-level viewfinder, a completely redesigned grip, improved sealing, and rugged magnesium alloy chassis.
And I commit to you, on behalf of all of Sony, we will continue to listen and we will continue to innovate and take pain points out of the creative process so you can do what you all do so very well.
So after the announcement, as per most of the Sony release events, they have sets set up so you can test out the new gear. It was a mad dash to all of the sets. All of the cameras were tethered, so you had about, it felt like this much, but it had a tether on it about like that, so you were able to shoot with it. You could put a card in there and bring some images home with you, which I was able to do. Of course, they're all in JPEG, so I wasn't able to, I shot both JPEG and RAW, but I wasn't able to edit any of the RAW images because nothing really supports it right now. So while everybody made a mad dash to all the cameras, I just kind of stepped back, and I really was interested in seeing the reaction of people, the press, the YouTubers, people that were there to get a hands-on for the event. About an hour before it was announced, myself and some other fortunate Sony artisans were allowed access behind the veil, so to speak. Actually, no, that was really that's what it was. It was behind a veil, a big curtain. So yeah, that's right. So we got to go back behind the scenes and check out the gear, not do a whole lot of shooting with it per se, but we were able to grab it, form factor, go through the menus, and really check it out. And that way we would be familiar with it if people had questions later and wanted to talk to us about it.
Yes.
What do you think? What are you thinking?
You know what? I'm thinking, I love it. I gotta get this sucker. It's extremely responsive in focusing. It's that eye tracks. I just had her have the pedals come down and her walk towards me, and it was just tracking that eye. That was like amazing on that. I love the feel of it. It's just got a slightly beefier grip on it to hold your pinky down here. But the quality looks amazing on it, and that extra resolution is going to be insane. You can pop on the APS-C lenses on there and still get 24 megapixels on it, so I really like it. I think it's going to be a winner.
Being that Amber and I shoot primarily video, I really wanted to get some video tests done. Didn't do a whole lot. It's not really a video-centric camera. It does have some amazing video features, some new features that I really hope transcend beyond the Mark IV, and hopefully, please, Sony, bring those features to the 7 III. That would be killer. Things like the eye autofocus, these object tracking. So if you have an object in your frame, let's say it's a car or a BMX biker, or who knows what it is, just an object in the frame, you can touch that on the screen and it will actively track that. And from what I hear, I haven't tested it myself, but from what I hear, it does an excellent job. Now in the past, I've used what's called center lock-on focus, which is kind of like that, but this new generation of object tracking is like nothing that has come before it as far as on Sony cameras. So I'm really looking forward to testing that out. I think that would be a huge advantage to a videographer, to a filmmaker, to have that object tracking and just be able to touch the part of the screen and track that focus as something moves around in the frame. Now, although this is primarily a high-resolution 61 megapixel stills camera, it does come with some brand new video features that I'm really excited about. And the reason I'm excited about them, because it shows me the future and the direction that Sony is heading, and showing some videographers, some filmmakers, some much needed love. Now I know that this may seem silly. However, one of the biggest features announced that I am super excited for, because it has been a pain point in my life for the last, well, ever since I started using Sony, since the first A7S, is the focus box color. It's this light gray that you cannot see. Now, photographers, if you don't understand, here's the thing. When you're shooting a photo and you have it on, let's say, medium spot, adjustable medium spot area, and you're moving it around, and then when you press your shutter and click, you got the picture, the little box or whatever you have turns green. Very easy to see. With video, that doesn't happen. You don't press the shutter to find focus. It's always focusing. So this little focus area box is this really light gray that blends into every background ever made. Most of the time, I get frustrated that I can't see where my focus area is at, especially if it's a really small area. And so I will just touch the screen where I want to focus, and that's kind of a little workaround I've done. But now you can change the color. You can change it between white or red, and that seems like such a simple change, but it's going to make my life that much better. Sony also introduced the eye tracking autofocus for video. Now, we've had that for photography for quite a while now, but to have it on video, and I actually got a chance to test it out, and what I found most impressive is that I'm shooting this girl you're seeing here, and they're throwing petals in her face and all these petals coming down, but as I was using it, you could just see it lock on that eye, and even when she would like spin around, it wouldn't just jump to the back of her head. It would hold on to where the last known position of her eye, and then when she came like pulled around in the front, it would jump back over and grab that eye. And that is really, really going to be handy, because a lot of times I like to shoot maybe my 50mm 1.4 Sony Zeiss is one of my favorite lenses to shoot video with, and that and my 85 1.4. I love shooting wide open. I just love the dreamy, soft, bokeh-y. I love that look. So if I'm at 1.4 and I'm at 50 or maybe 85, it could mean the difference between, let's say, my glasses being in focus and then my eyes not, or my nose being in focus if I'm really tight, or my subject's nose rather, being in focus and their eye not. Well, now with face detection compiled with eye detection, those two together, working together, it's just gonna get right in there and grab that eye. And I'm really excited about that, because that is in essence gonna make me be more proficient at my job. And I'm gonna be able to come home with more footage that's just spot on the way I want it. So thank you, Sony. I'm very excited to start using that. Oh, I about forgot. You can now save your camera settings to an SD card and load it on another camera. Mind blown. Okay, that may not seem like a big deal, but we shoot a lot of weddings, so it's not uncommon for us to have between 4 and 5 cameras shooting the actual ceremony and also the reception. And so when I get a new body, or maybe I rent one or something like that, I have to go through and one thing that drives me crazy is if I'm on one camera and then I jump to another camera, and guess what? The settings are different. The buttons are mapped differently. My quick function menu is all different. Drives me crazy because I can't find what I need. Now I can get my camera set up and save that to an SD card and then load it on all those other cameras in just that amount of time. I'd actually go back and watch my own YouTube videos to remember how to set it up. That's how bad it was getting with me remembering all of my settings. So that is a feature that I really appreciate. Oh, and I also heard via Jason Vong, this is a great feature. I haven't used it. Jason, thank you for letting me know about this. But you can actually save those settings to the Sony app on your phone and load it via your phone. I haven't tested that out yet. I haven't seen it work, but I'm really excited that that would work for me. That way I don't have to carry around this SD card with settings. I can just have it on my phone and then preload my camera with all those settings. So that is another great feature for videographers and filmmakers alike. Another great video feature is the fact that I can now rename the camera video files. So again, I'm shooting a wedding. I have 5 cameras set up. When I go to offload that footage, sometimes I get really frustrated with that all of my cameras will start with like 001, 002, and it'll be a totally different shooter. But sometimes when I'm looking for a particular file, or I'm trying to call them, I'm trying to put them in bins and trying to put them in different folders, they're all named the same, so it's confusing. So now we can go in there and we can name like GB1, and then for Amber, I could be AB2, and then somebody else, MC3, whatever, and know exactly what camera that footage came from. And that's gonna be, again, a huge benefit to my workflow and just help my life be easier. And that's the kind of stuff that draws me to Sony's when they make my life easier. They can give me all the features in the world. They can give me all the camera specs, but if it doesn't make my life easier, I don't want it. But they keep innovating and keep making my life easier. And as long as they keep doing that, I am in for the long haul for sure. Also on the video portion, you can have a different function menu on the photo side. So you switch to manual and you're shooting your photos, or maybe your aperture priority, whatever. Your quick function menu is gonna be one thing. Then you switch to video mode on the dial up here on top, and it's gonna be something totally different. So you don't have to mix your photo settings with your video settings. You can have those two separately. When it switches over, you have a whole new set of quick functions. Again, another thing, make my life easier. Thank you, Sony. So after using the camera at the shoot for a while, I started to really have an appreciation for the new design. It is a little bit larger. You know, Sony, when they first started releasing the mirrorless, it was like smaller is better. Let's get it tiny, tiny, tiny. And that's okay. I get what they were trying to do. However, if you're like me and you got big hands, most of the time your pinky is just kind of out in limbo, just kind of hanging out down there somewhere. So playing with the new grip, it really felt like I had a better grip. That's the only way I can say it. It felt like I had a better grip. Now with that is all the buttons have a better tactile response. So when I'm pressing a button, there's more travel and it feels better. this is features like that that as users we have asked Sony for, and they keep just improving the usability and the functionality of the camera. And little things like a better grip and also the tactile response goes a long way if it's your job. You know, this is my job. I do this every single day. We've shot 600 weddings, so anytime a little thing is added that just makes my life easier or just makes the workflow smoother. Again, I keep, it's not like a broken record, I keep saying that. Anytime you make my life easier and make my experience at my job better is something that I gravitate towards and I love. Thank you. All right, let me get sidetracked just for 1 second. While we were in New York, Amber and I took an extra day just to ourselves to go to some museums and just see the sights. If you're traveling and you have the Sony RX0II, it makes a great and fun little pocket camera that you can take pictures and video with. I had an absolute blast with it. You know, if you don't want to take even the small 24mm G Master, if you just want something to throw in your pocket, it's a great little camera. As you can see by these images, it's just really nice to have in your pocket, and you know, the security guards don't look weirdly at you when you pull out a great big DSLR, because they apparently think you're going to take pictures of all their museum antiquities and sell them and make millions of dollars. Anyways, I digress. It's a great little camera. Check it out. The next day, Sony had an B-Alpha event at a different location with all new sets with the a7R Mark IV ready to go for you to grab a hold of and take photos. Now, if you ever go to one of these events, you will see that everybody posts and comes home kind of the same photos, and I really try to go out of my way to figure out how can I capture what everybody else is capturing, but in a different way. So when I make a post on Instagram, Facebook, people are more, they'll gravitate towards it and be like, oh, that's the same thing, but that's different somehow. Not necessarily better, just different. So I saw a lot of people shooting on 50s, 24 to 70s at the longer end, usually 50 to 70. A lot of 85s, beautiful lens. I love that lens. But I had my 24 G Master 1.4, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to go in here and get some portraits in 24mm. Now, you would not typically think that it is a portrait lens. It's just too wide for a portrait, right? I don't think so. I had a really good time with it. Now, at the event, I really gravitated more towards the photography side of things rather than video. Now, video is how I pay the bills. It's my job. I do it every day of my life. So I definitely am interested in that, and I want to see Sony continue to innovate in that area. However, photography has become, it's moving more and more to the forefront in our business. We're getting more photography jobs, and it's becoming not just a work thing, but I'm really having fun as a passion, as a way of being creative, and it's kind of creative fulfilling to me. Whereas sometimes, you know, if it, like the video portion side of it, if you do it all the time, every day for 15 years, eventually sometimes it does feel like more of a job. So the photography side of it, to me, being able to take pictures, and then, you know, when I'm on the couch at night watching a movie with Amber, I can edit them on my iPad. That seems to be really creative and fulfilling to me, and I'm really gravitating towards that more and more each time I do it. So after the second event, we were all out. We all went out and tried to get some food, and we're eating pizza and just talking about the new features and what it means for the future of Sony. And I cornered one of the people that work for Sony, and I was like, hey, I would love to take this camera and shoot some untethered, because, you know, all the cameras were tethered with, like, okay, it wasn't that bad, but it was not very long, because I wanted to keep a close eye on these cameras. But I was like, I would love if you would let me take one of these cameras just overnight, and I would, you know, just do some street photography. You know, it's raining in New York. Perfect opportunity to test the water seal, the weather seal. Perfect opportunity to get some great, you know, reflection shots. And for whatever reason, they said yes. In fact, they were so nice. They said, you know, I'll tell you what, you go ahead and take the camera. play with it over the weekend, and then ship it out back to us Monday. And I was ecstatic. Well, I stayed out in New York, walking the streets of New York till about 5 in the morning because I really wanted to just put it through its paces and see what it felt like to shoot. I went out and just shot, and I was able to come away with some amazing, gorgeous frames. And after spending an evening with the Sony a7R Mark IV, just the camera and myself, nobody with me, no tethering, just me walking around New York, I guess the biggest thing I can say, it just felt like any other of my Sony bodies, other than the fact that it had a better grip, so I felt more secure with it, and the buttons just felt better, the joystick felt better, but I didn't really worry about, oh, it's a high megapixel, I better, not shoot at a high ISO. And you can see on some of these pictures, I was shooting at a fairly high ISO and just having the time of my life. I really had a good time with it shooting that evening, and it just felt like any other Sony body as far as how it worked. The autofocus is even better than before, so I had no problem. I'm really excited to do a portrait with this, like a real portrait on my set, not a set that somebody else set up, which the sets they had were amazing and gorgeous, but I want to be in a situation where the lighting's mine, the set's mine, it's my model, whether it's my puppies or an actual live human being, whatever, but to be in a scenario where that everything is created by me. That's what I'm looking forward to, and I'm hoping to get a loaner unit in the future, and when I do, I will let you know how that goes. But anyways, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please hit that subscribe button, and I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks. Have a good day.